Hello, friends. Welcome back to Untold Tales, and thank you for the incredible support you've shown our channel. In today's video, we're diving into some of Switzerland's most horrifying real-life stories. Though Switzerland is often celebrated for its stunning landscapes, quaint towns, and pristine Alpine beauty, there's a darker, more mysterious side to this beautiful country. It's home to chilling legends and ghostly encounters that have fascinated locals and visitors alike. Join us as we explore the most haunted places in Switzerland, where unsettling stories and eerie experiences have left a lasting mark on its history. Nestled along the tranquil shores of Lake Geneva in Montreux, the Château de Chillon stands as one of Switzerland's most iconic and picturesque landmarks. With its towering walls and stunning reflection mirrored in the lake's crystal-clear waters, the castle attracts thousands of visitors each year who come to admire its architectural beauty and delve into its rich history. However, behind the allure of its medieval charm lies a chilling past that many believe continues to echo through its cold stone halls to this day. Dating back to at least the 12th century, the Château de Chillon has been a site of strategic importance for centuries, serving as a fortress to guard a key passage through the Alps. Its turbulent history is etched into its very stones, as it has been the setting for political intrigue, war, and imprisonment. Among the many stories associated with the castle, one in particular stands out, not for its grandeur, but for the eerie, lingering presence of a ghost said to haunt its corridors, the spirit of François Bonivard. François Bonivard was a 16th century monk, historian, and patriot of Geneva, who became famous not only for his writings, but also for the torment he suffered within the dungeons of Château de Chillon. Born into a noble family in 1493, Bonivard was educated in the church and eventually became a prior at the monastery of Saint Victor in Geneva. However, his strong support for Geneva's independence from the Duke of Savoy made him a target of powerful enemies. In 1530, Bonivard's outspoken views against the Duke of Savoy led to his arrest. He was imprisoned in various locations before being transferred to Château de Chillon, where he was held captive in the castle's dark, damp dungeon for 6 grueling years. It is said that Bonivard was chained to a pillar, deprived of light, and subjected to immense physical and mental suffering. His only companions were the distant sounds of the lake's waves crashing against the castle walls and the unsettling silence that filled the underground chambers. Eventually freed by Bernay's forces in 1536, Bonivard lived the rest of his life as a free man and became a symbol of Geneva's struggle for liberty. His legacy was immortalized in Lord Byron's famous poem, The Prisoner of Chillon, which brought the story of his unjust imprisonment to international attention. But while Bonivard's physical torment ended with his release, many believe that his spirit never truly escaped the castle. Over the centuries, numerous visitors and castle staff have reported eerie encounters at Château de Chillon. The most common sighting is that of a shadowy figure believed to be Bonivard himself, roaming the halls and dungeons where he was once imprisoned. Some describe hearing faint chains rattling in the lower levels of the castle, while others have felt an unexplainable chill in the air, even on warm summer days. The dungeon where Bonivard was held has become a focal point for paranormal activity. Visitors report feeling an overwhelming sense of despair and isolation when they enter the space, as though the walls themselves are heavy with the weight of history. Some claim to have seen a ghostly figure standing near the pillar to which Bonivard was once chained, his form flickering like a shadow just out of reach. It is said that his spirit lingers, seeking vengeance for the years of suffering he endured unjustly at the hands of his captors. In addition to Bonivard's ghost, strange noises have been heard throughout the castle, particularly at night. Staff have reported footsteps echoing down empty corridors, doors slamming shut without explanation, and whispers that seem to come from the stone walls themselves. Cold spots, areas where the temperature inexplicably drops, are frequently felt in certain rooms, adding to the unnerving atmosphere that permeates the castle after dark. Today, Château de Chillon stands as both a cultural treasure and a site of supernatural intrigue. It is one of the most visited castles in Europe, drawing history enthusiasts, architecture lovers, and paranormal seekers alike. While many come for the castle's rich history and breathtaking views of Lake Geneva, others are drawn by the darker tales that lurk within its walls. Francois Bonivar's story, though rooted in historical fact, has taken on a ghostly life of its own over the years. His haunting presence is said to be a reminder of the castle's more sinister past, a past that stands in stark contrast to the beauty that surrounds it. Whether one believes in the supernatural or not, it's impossible to visit Château de Chillon without feeling the weight of the centuries that have passed through its halls and the souls who have left their mark on its stone walls. For those brave enough to explore its haunted history, Château de Chillon offers more than just a glimpse into Switzerland's medieval past. It offers a chilling encounter with the spirits that, according to legend, still walk its corridors, forever tied to the castle by the dark events that unfolded within its ancient walls. The Oberhofen Castle, perched majestically on the serene shores of Lake Thun, is one of Switzerland's most captivating historical landmarks. With its beautifully preserved medieval architecture and its idyllic location, the castle draws visitors from around the world to admire its charm. However, behind the picturesque facade lies a haunting history that has left an eerie mark on its walls, earning it a reputation as one of the most haunted places in the country. The castle's history dates back to the 13th century, a time of knights and nobility, and over the centuries it has seen its share of grand festivities, political intrigue, love, and devastating betrayal. As the seat of powerful families, Oberhofen Castle was not just a fortress, but a residence where lives were intertwined with deep emotions. While the grandeur of its halls speaks of nobility and status, the stories that echo through them are filled with sorrow and tragedy. Among the many ghostly legends associated with Oberhofen Castle, the most famous is that of Agnes, a young woman whose tragic death left an indelible impression on the place. Her story, though shrouded in mystery, has been passed down through generations, and her spirit is said to remain bound to the castle, forever searching for her lost love. Agnes was born into a noble family connected to the castle's owners during the late medieval period. As the daughter of a minor noble, she was expected to marry within her class, and like many women of her time, her future was determined by alliances rather than love. However, Agnes was different. She had fallen deeply in love with a knight who served the castle. Their romance, though passionate, was forbidden, as her family had already arranged her betrothal to a wealthy lord, a political marriage that would strengthen ties between two powerful families. As the date of her arranged marriage loomed, Agnes and the knight secretly planned to elope. They knew the risk they were taking. Such a scandal would ruin her family's honor and cost the knight his life. But love blinded them, and they set the plan into motion. One stormy night, under the cover of darkness, they attempted to flee the castle together. Unfortunately, their secret was discovered. Soldiers were sent after them, and in the chaos that followed, the knight was slain. Agnes, heartbroken and despondent, returned to the castle only to be met with rage and condemnation from her family. Her dreams shattered and her love lost. Agnes fell into despair. According to legend, she died soon after. Some say of a broken heart, while others whisper that her family's shame led to her untimely death. Ever since that fateful night, visitors and castle staff have reported strange occurrences within the walls of Oberhofen. The most common experiences involve hearing the sound of disembodied footsteps echoing through the castle's long, empty corridors. Visitors who walk through the castle at night describe the sensation of being followed by an unseen presence, with faint footsteps trailing them, as if someone were walking just out of sight. The most startling encounters, however, are the sightings of Agnes herself. Described as a shadowy figure, her ghost is often seen gliding through the rooms of the castle, her pale face full of sorrow, as if still searching for her lost love. She is most frequently spotted near the lake, where it is believed she once waited in vain for the knight who would never return. Witnesses report that she appears almost translucent, her form flickering like a candle in the wind before disappearing altogether. Some say that they've seen her standing by the castle's windows, staring out over the lake, lost in her eternal grief. In addition to sightings of Agnes, the castle is home to a number of unexplained phenomena. Cold spots, areas where the temperature suddenly drops without explanation, are frequently felt in certain rooms, even in the heat of summer. Doors have been known to open and close on their own, and strange, faint whispers have been heard in the dead of night, as if the castle's very walls are trying to tell a long-forgotten story. One of the most unnerving experiences reported by guests is the sensation of invisible hands brushing against them, or even the feeling of being lightly tugged on the sleeve, as though Agnes herself is reaching out, desperately seeking comfort. These occurrences, though fleeting, leave a lasting impression on those who experience them, as if they've made contact with a soul who cannot rest. Today, the Oberhofen Castle stands as both a historical treasure and a haunting reminder of the past. Its beautiful gardens, serene location, and medieval architecture tell the story of Switzerland's noble past, but the ghostly presence of Agnes speaks of the human emotions, love, loss, and betrayal that transcend time. Visitors who come to admire the castle's beauty often leave with a different kind of memory, one filled with the chilling sensation that they've glimpsed something far beyond the material world. Agnes's story, while tragic, continues to captivate those who hear it. Whether her spirit truly roams the halls of Oberhofen Castle, or her tale is simply a reflection of the sorrow that once lived there, one thing is certain: the legend of Agnes and the Oberhofen Castle remains an enduring part of Switzerland's haunted history. Those who venture to the castle often find themselves caught between the beauty of the past and the haunting presence of a love that could not survive it. The Grand National Hotel in Lucerne is one of Switzerland's most luxurious and prestigious establishments. Overlooking the serene waters of Lake Lucerne, and with the snow-capped Alps in the background, it has been a symbol of opulence since it opened its doors in 1870. Throughout its storied history, the hotel has hosted royalty, celebrities, and dignitaries from around the world, making it a haven for the elite. But behind its elegant facade and world-class service, the Grand National Hotel is also home to something far less welcoming, a haunting presence that has left an eerie on its history. For over a century, guests and staff alike have reported strange phenomena that seem to defy explanation. Flickering lights, sudden cold drafts in otherwise warm rooms, and the unsettling feeling of being watched are just a few of the common occurrences. However, it is the sightings of ghostly apparitions in period clothing that have truly cemented the hotel's reputation as one of the most haunted places in Lucerne. Among the many ghostly figures said to roam the halls, none is more infamous than the spirit encountered by one of the 20th century's most renowned minds, Carl Gustav Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology. Jung, known for his pioneering work on the human psyche, was no stranger to the exploration of the mysterious and the unknown. His interest in dreams, the unconscious, and the metaphysical world made his encounter at the Grand National Hotel all the more chilling. In the early 1920s, Carl Gustav Jung stayed at the Grand National Hotel during one of his frequent trips through Europe. He was drawn to the beauty of Lucerne and the quiet luxury the hotel offered, but his stay was anything but peaceful. One evening, while resting in his room, Jung experienced what he would later describe as one of the most vivid and inexplicable encounters of his life. As the story goes, Jung had just fallen asleep when he was suddenly awakened by the unmistakable sensation of someone standing near his bed. At first, he thought it might have been a dream, but as his eyes adjusted to the darkness of the room, he realized that he was not alone. Standing at the foot of his bed was a figure dressed in the armor of an ancient Roman legionnaire. The figure's face was obscured by shadows, but Jung could clearly make out the glint of the soldier's armor and the stoic posture of a man who had seen battle. Frozen in place, Jung watched as the ghostly figure remained motionless, as though standing guard. There was no malice or threat in the apparition's presence, only a profound sense of stillness and an overwhelming connection to something ancient. After what felt like an eternity, the figure slowly began to fade, dissolving into the air until it was gone. When Jung finally gathered the courage to move, he found the room as it had been before, except for the lingering coldness in the air. The next morning, Jung inquired with the hotel staff about the possibility of someone entering his room during the night, but of course, no one had. He was left with only his own interpretation of the event, which, for someone as deeply analytical as Jung, remained a mystery. Although he never claimed to fully understand what he had seen, Jung later speculated that the figure might have been a manifestation of the hotel's connection to Lucerne's ancient Roman past. After all, the area had once been part of the Roman Empire, and many believed that the spirits of those who had lived and died there still wandered the land. Jung's experience at the Grand National Hotel became one of the most famous ghost stories associated with the establishment, but it was far from the only one. Over the years, numerous guests have reported seeing figures dressed in period clothing, women in Victorian gowns wandering the hallways, and men in old-fashioned suits appearing in mirrors only to vanish moments later. Some have even claimed to hear the faint sounds of a grand ballroom party, complete with music and laughter, only to find the hotel's ballroom completely empty. Cold drafts, often described as icy gusts that seem to come from nowhere, have been felt in rooms where there are no open windows. The sensation of someone brushing past in a deserted corridor or a door creaking open by itself has unnerved many. But these occurrences are so frequent that they are now considered part of the hotel's unique character. One of the most unsettling stories comes from a guest who stayed in one of the hotel's most luxurious suites. Late one night, as he was reading by the fireplace, he noticed the lights begin to flicker. At first, he thought it was a minor electrical issue, but then the temperature in the room dropped dramatically. As he stood to check the thermostat, he saw a woman dressed in a long, flowing gown standing by the window, staring out over Lake Lucerne. Her face was turned away from him, but the sadness in her posture was palpable. Before he could approach, she vanished, leaving the room eerily quiet and unbearably cold. Today, the Grand National Hotel remains a top destination for those seeking luxury and comfort in Lucerne, but it also attracts a different kind of visitor, those who are curious about its haunted past. Ghost hunters, paranormal enthusiasts, and even skeptics come to the hotel, hoping to catch a glimpse of the spirits that are said to linger there, whether it's the Roman legionnaire that Jung encountered, the woman by the window, or the many other apparitions that have been seen over the years. The spirits of the Grand National Hotel seem to be a permanent part of its legacy. For many, the idea of sharing their stay with a ghost is an exciting prospect, adding a thrilling layer of mystery to the hotel's already rich history. And for those who don't believe, well, the Grand National still offers the finest in Swiss hospitality, with just a hint of the supernatural. High in the treacherous peaks of the Swiss Alps nestled near the Great St. Bernard Pass lies the St. Bernard's Hospice, a place of refuge that has stood for centuries, offering shelter to weary travelers making their way through one of the most perilous mountain passes in Europe. Established in the Middle Ages, the hospice was founded by St. Bernard of Menthon to aid those who dared to cross the dangerous Alpine paths, particularly in winter, when avalanches, blizzards, and freezing temperatures claimed many lives. The hospice became famous for its loyal St. Bernard dogs who were trained to rescue stranded travelers. But behind the tales of bravery lies another, darker legend, one of spectral monks and the haunting presence of the dogs themselves, continuing their vigil even after death. The hospice, surrounded by snow-capped mountains and often engulfed in an eerie, otherworldly silence, has long been a place of mystery. While its primary mission was always to save lives, many have reported that the hospice is also a resting place for lost souls, those who died in the unforgiving cold of the Alps, their spirits still tethered to the mountains. Over the centuries, countless travelers have sought refuge within its ancient stone walls, and some never left. The hauntings that plague St. Bernard's Hospice are said to be as old as the hospice itself. One of the most well-known stories comes from the 18th century, during a particularly harsh winter when the snow was so thick that many believed the pass was impassable. On one bitterly cold night, a small group of monks ventured out into the blinding snowstorm, responding to a report of travelers lost in the storm. Leading the way were the faithful St. Bernard dogs, trained to locate and dig out those who had been buried by the snow. The monks and their dogs found the travelers, but the storm intensified and they too became trapped. By the time the search party was discovered, all of them, monks, dogs, and the travelers they sought to save, had perished, buried beneath the relentless snow. Since that tragic night, there have been countless reports of ghostly sightings at the hospice. Visitors have claimed to hear the mournful howling of long-deceased St. Bernard dogs echoing through the icy winds, as though their spirits are still out there, searching for lost travelers. The howls are often described as heart-wrenching, filled with sorrow and desperation, sending chills down the spines of those who hear them. Even more unsettling are the frequent sightings of spectral monks. Dressed in their traditional robes, these ghostly figures have been seen silently tending to the needs of travelers who arrive at the hospice, exhausted and in need of warmth. Some visitors have recounted that, upon arriving at the hospice late at night, they were greeted by a monk who led them inside, offered them food and drink, and showed them to a room to rest. But when they awoke the next morning and asked about their host, the other monks would shake their heads, explaining that no such person had been on duty. These spectral monks are believed to be the spirits of those who perished in the storm centuries ago, continuing their service to the living even in death. The spectral monks are not aggressive or frightening. In fact, many who have encountered them describe a feeling of peace and safety in their presence. One traveler in the early 1900s, a merchant from Italy, told the story of how he was caught in a sudden blizzard near the pass. He was certain he would not survive the night, as he had lost his way and was beginning to succumb to the cold. Just as he was about to give up hope, he saw a faint light in the distance. A figure, which he described as a monk, appeared before him, guiding him through the storm to the hospice. When he arrived, he was too weak to speak and collapsed. The next morning, after he had recovered, he inquired about the monk who had saved him, only to be told that no one had ventured out into the storm that night. The man was convinced that it had been the spirit of one of the monks still watching over the pass. The dogs, too, seemed to play their part in this spectral vigil. The St. Bernard breed, known for their incredible ability to navigate the snow and their iconic rescue barrels, became synonymous with the hospice. Although the dogs of today are more symbolic than functional, their ancestors are believed to still roam the pass. People have reported seeing the figures of large, shadowy dogs moving through the snow, often at night or in the early morning mist. These dogs are said to walk beside travelers, as though ensuring they find their way safely through the treacherous terrain. Some witnesses have even felt the brush of a warm, furry body against their legs, only to look down and find nothing there. It's as if the spirits of the heroic dogs are still determined to fulfill their purpose, centuries after their deaths. One of the most enduring tales involves a young boy who had once been rescued by one of the hospice's dogs in the 1800s. The boy, lost in the snow, was found by a St. Bernard named Barry, who was famous for saving over 40 lives during his time at the hospice. Barry guided the boy back to safety, and the child never forgot the dog's bravery. Years later, the boy, now a man, returned to the hospice as a guest. One night, while staying there, he swore he saw Barry, long since dead, pacing the hallways as though on his usual patrol, ensuring all was well. He followed the ghostly dog down the hall, but Barry vanished as quickly as he had appeared. The man was left with the sense that Barry's spirit still watched over the hospice, continuing to protect travelers just as he had in life. The Schlucht, or Are Gorge, located near the town of Meiringen in the Bernese Alps, is a breathtaking natural wonder. For millions of years, the Aar River has carved its way through the limestone cliffs, creating towering walls that rise above the rushing waters below. Visitors who walk along the narrow pathways that wind through the gorge are treated to stunning views of the sheer cliffs, the power of the river, and the peaceful beauty of the surrounding nature. However, despite its tranquil appearance, the Aar Schlucht is said to harbor a more sinister presence, one that lingers in the shadows of the gorge, waiting to make itself known to those who dare venture too close. For centuries, the Aar Gorge has been the subject of eerie legends and ghostly sightings. Locals tell stories of the spirits of those who perished in the treacherous waters of the Aar River, their souls unable to find peace, forever bound to the gorge. It's not uncommon for visitors to report feeling a sudden chill in the air, even on the warmest summer days, or to experience the sensation of being watched as they explore the winding paths along the gorge's cliffs. But the most unsettling reports are those of strange whispers, barely audible yet impossible to ignore, that seem to emanate from the depths of the gorge itself. One of the earliest tales of haunting at the Lucht comes from the 19th century, when the gorge became a popular destination for tourists seeking to experience Switzerland's natural beauty. As the story goes, a young couple from Lucerne visited the gorge during their honeymoon. They were captivated by the beauty of the towering cliffs and the force of the river below, but as they ventured deeper into the gorge, the mood shifted. The narrow pathway began to feel more confining, the sound of the river more deafening, and the once picturesque scene became oppressive. It was then that the bride began to hear whispers. At first, she thought it was the sound of the wind moving through the rocks, but as they pressed on, the whispers grew louder. They seemed to come from all around her, disembodied voices that made no sense yet filled her with a sense of dread. Panicked, she turned to her husband, only to find that he had heard nothing. Frightened, the couple quickly left the gorge instead, and the woman swore she would never return. Since that time, countless others have reported similar experiences. Some describe hearing voices whispering unintelligible words, while others claim to hear their own names being called from the depths of the gorge. More unsettling still are the sightings of shadowy figures that appear in the periphery of visitors' vision, only to disappear when they turn to look directly at them. These figures are often described as tall and featureless, moving silently along the cliff edges or appearing momentarily in the narrow passageways. Though these apparitions are fleeting, they leave a lasting impression on those who encounter them. The most common explanation for these paranormal phenomena is rooted in the tragic history of the Aare River. Over the centuries, the river has claimed the lives of many people, some through accidents, others through intentional means. The waters of the Aare are fast and unforgiving, particularly in the gorge, where the narrow pathways and steep cliffs offer little room for error. It is said that the spirits of those who drowned in the river, or who leaped to their deaths from the cliffs above, are unable to move on, trapped between the living world and whatever lies beyond. Teufelsbrück, or the Devil's Bridge, located near the village of Andermatt in the heart of the Swiss Alps, is a place steeped in legend and surrounded by an eerie mystique. The bridge, which spans the dramatic Reuss Gorge, has been a critical passage through the mountains for centuries. It is an impressive feat of engineering, particularly given the rugged terrain and treacherous conditions in which it was built. Yet, despite its practical importance, the Teufelsbrück is most famous for the dark and supernatural tale that clings to it, a story of a pact with the devil himself. The origins of the bridge date back to the 13th century when the local villagers were struggling to find a way to cross the raging Reuss River, which was swollen with meltwater from the surrounding glaciers. The Reuss Gorge was a formidable obstacle, cutting through the mountains with steep, jagged cliffs that made travel nearly impossible. The villagers, desperate to connect their valley to the outside world and enable trade and communication, attempted to build a bridge, but every time they tried, the river's powerful current would wash away their efforts. Frustration grew as the villagers watched their dreams of a crossing vanish into the violent waters below. That was when, according to legend, the devil appeared to a weary group of townspeople as they sat, exhausted, near the edge of the gorge. The devil, disguised as a man but with a malevolent gleam in his eyes, made them an offer. He would build the bridge for them, but in return he demanded the soul of the first being to cross it. Desperate and with no other solution in sight, the villagers agreed to the devil's terms. The following morning, they awoke to find a sturdy bridge spanning the gorge, an awe-inspiring structure that looked as though it had been built overnight. It was then that the villagers realized the full weight of the bargain they had made. The devil would soon come to collect his due, the soul of the first being to set foot on the bridge. But the villagers were clever. They decided that instead of sacrificing one of their own, They would send an animal across the bridge first. Early the next morning, they brought a large goat from the nearby mountains, tied a bell around its neck, and sent it trotting across the new bridge. As the goat reached the far side, the devil appeared, ready to claim his prize. However, when he realized he had been tricked, his fury knew no bounds. Legend says that in his anger, the devil grabbed a massive boulder, intending to smash the bridge and destroy it forever. But before he could hurl the boulder into the gorge, a local woman who had been praying to St. Michael for protection drew a cross on the rock. The symbol of the cross weakened the devil's power, and he was unable to lift the boulder. Defeated, he vanished, leaving the villagers to use the bridge safely. To this day, the massive boulder known as the Devil's Stone can still be seen near Gushenen, a town not far from the bridge. It serves as a reminder of the villagers' cunning and the devil's thwarted plan. Though the story of the pact with the devil is the most famous legend surrounding the Teufelsbrücke, it is not the only tale of mystery and haunting connected to the site. Over the centuries, travelers and locals alike have reported strange occurrences near the bridge. Some have claimed to hear ghostly cries echoing through the gorge, particularly on stormy nights when the wind howls through the mountains. These cries are often described as chilling wails, as though someone or something was calling out from the depths of the gorge. Others have reported seeing shadowy figures standing on the bridge, only for them to vanish when approached. One of the more unnerving aspects of the bridge's haunting is the tale of the spectral goat. Travelers who cross the bridge after dark have occasionally reported seeing a goat standing at the far end of the bridge, its bell clanging softly in the wind. The goat is always described as large and solid, yet when anyone approaches it, the animal disappears into thin air. Locals believe that this ghostly goat is a manifestation of the one that was sent across the bridge to trick the devil, forever bound to the spot where it saved the village. Another legend tells of a group of soldiers who died in the gorge during the Napoleonic Wars in the early 19th century. In 1799, during the Swiss campaign, Russian and French forces clashed near the Reuss Gorge, and many men were killed in the fierce battles fought in the area. Some locals believe that the spirits of those soldiers still linger near the bridge, trapped between this world and the next. On rare occasions, travelers have reported seeing figures dressed in old military uniforms standing silently on the bridge, staring out over the gorge. These apparitions are often accompanied by an overwhelming sense of sadness or loss, as though the spirits are unable to leave the place where they met their untimely deaths. Tucked away in the heart of Geneva is Rue de l'Enfer, or the Street of Hell, a narrow, unassuming lane that is steeped in local folklore and believed to be haunted by the restless spirit of a woman who met a tragic and untimely end. Despite its rather foreboding name, Rue de l'Enfer could easily be missed by the casual passerby, as its quiet cobblestone path winds through the city like many other streets in the old town. Yet for those who know its history, Rue de l'Enfer holds an eerie, almost sinister reputation. The origins of its haunting date back to the 19th century, when the street was the site of a grim event that would leave a mark on Geneva's history. According to legend, a young woman named Elisabeth was once a resident of Rue de l'Enfer. She was known in the community for her beauty and kind spirit, but her life was tragically cut short by a cruel twist of fate. The exact details of her death are shrouded in mystery, but local lore holds that she was murdered by a jealous lover. Some say she was betrayed by someone she trusted, while others claim it was an unrequited love that drove her assailant to madness. What all stories agree on is that her life ended in violence, leaving her spirit forever bound to the place where she perished. Soon after her death, strange phenomena began to occur along the narrow street. Residents reported hearing the faint sounds of weeping at night, a sorrowful lament that seemed to drift on the wind. The sound was most often heard near the very spot where Elisabeth had been found dead, as if her spirit was still mourning the loss of her life. Some claim to have seen the figure of a woman dressed in white, moving slowly down the street, her face hidden beneath a veil of shadows. She was said to glide silently, her steps making no sound against the cobblestones before vanishing into the night without a trace. One of the most unsettling aspects of these encounters is the intense cold that is often reported by those who walk down Rue de l'Enfer after dark. On nights when her ghost is said to appear, the temperature is known to drop suddenly, an inexplicable chill that seems to cling to the air, even in the middle of summer. Some passersby have described feeling an icy hand brush against them, though no one was there. Others have recounted moments where they felt as though they were being watched from the shadows, an unseen presence following their every move as they hurried down the street. There are also accounts of strange flickering lights appearing in the windows of the old buildings that line the street, though the homes are often empty at the time. These lights, described as faint, almost candle-like glows, have been attributed to the restless spirit of Elizabeth, as though she is still wandering the places she once knew in life, searching for peace that continues to elude her. The Sanatorium of the Gotthard, an imposing 5-story structure nestled in the rugged landscape near Piata, Switzerland, is often considered one of the eeriest locations in the country. This abandoned building, with its peeling walls and shattered windows, carries a heavy burden of history. Originally established as a hospital for soldiers wounded in World War I, it later transitioned to treating tuberculosis patients during a time when the disease was often a death sentence. As one approaches the sanatorium, a sense of foreboding settles in, and the landscape transforms into a backdrop of both natural beauty and decay. The building looms large against the sky, its once proud architecture now a ghostly reminder of its past. Local legends surrounding the sanatorium are both chilling and tragic, weaving tales of suffering, despair, and inexplicable occurrences that have haunted the grounds for decades. Inside the sanatorium, the atmosphere is thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional sound of the wind whispering through the cracked windows. Visitors who dare to enter often report strange noises that seem to echo from the depths of the building, a faint, distant crying, the rustle of fabric, or the sudden clatter of unseen footsteps. Shadows flicker along the walls, and some claim to feel a chilling presence that seems to follow them as they navigate the darkened hallways. One particularly hair-raising incident occurred when a local man decided to explore the decaying structure. As he approached the entrance in his car, he felt an unusual force pushing against the vehicle. Despite his efforts to drive forward, he found himself inexplicably pushed back, as if an unseen entity was firmly yet gently holding him in place. Confused and frightened, he eventually abandoned the attempt and fled the area, leaving behind unanswered questions about the forces at play within the sanatorium. The rumors surrounding the sanatorium are fueled by its grim history. It is said that a doctor who worked there performed unethical experiments on patients, often leading to their suffering and, in some cases, their untimely deaths. These stories, whether rooted in truth or embellished by time, have contributed to the building's reputation as a site of torment and sorrow. The sanatorium also housed its own morgue, where the bodies of those who succumbed to their illnesses were stored, a fact that adds an additional layer of unease to the already chilling environment. The Swiss embrace of Halloween may be a relatively new phenomenon, but tales of the supernatural have long lurked in the shadows of this picturesque country. One such story is that of the infamous Joller House in Stans, which, until its demolition in 2010, stood as a testament to the chilling experiences of its former inhabitants. The house was the residence of Melchior Joller, who moved in with his wife and 5 children in 1840, filled with hope and dreams of a bright future. However, shortly after they settled in, the tranquility of their new home was shattered by increasingly disturbing occurrences. Melchior chronicled these terrifying events in a journal that remains available to this day, serving as a haunting reminder of the poltergeist that drove him from his home. As the days turned into weeks, the strange happenings escalated. At first, it was minor disturbances, objects misplaced, fleeting shadows in the corners of their eyes, but it soon spiraled into chaos. Stones were hurled through the air, furniture was upended, and it felt as if a malevolent force were attacking the very structure of the house. The sounds were deafening, resembling the relentless banging of a hammer on wood, leaving the family sleepless and terrified. Melchior's son, in a particularly harrowing incident, encountered a ghostly figure early one morning. Overcome with fear, he fainted at the sight, adding to the growing sense of dread that enveloped the household. As the paranormal activity continued unabated, Melchior sought help, but his status as a respected member of society, indeed a parliamentarian, offered him no refuge. Instead, friends and acquaintances laughed off his claims, dismissing his fears as mere imagination. After 5 years of torment, Melchior, now a shadow of his former self, fled to Rome, seeking the guidance of the Pope in hopes of finding solace or an explanation for the haunting. Tragically, he died at the age of 47, a broken man haunted by the very house he once called home. The ghost responsible for Melchior's plight was none other than his own grandmother, Veronica Gutt. A formidable woman of considerable wealth and influence, Veronica had dedicated her life to the resistance against foreign powers, particularly during the tumultuous times of the late 1700s when Napoleon's forces threatened her homeland. She lost her son in battle and witnessed the tragic deaths of 4 daughters, all of whom perished while fleeing from Napoleon's soldiers. This profound grief twisted her spirit, and after her death, it seemed she could not bear the thought of anyone, especially her own flesh and blood, finding happiness. Melchior's liberal ideals and openness to trade with the French were anathema to Veronica, who believed fiercely in the cause of freedom for her homeland. Some local legends suggest that she died with a singular purpose: to haunt Melchior for his perceived betrayal of her values. As the relentless poltergeist drove him from his home and eventually to his grave, the Joller house became a cursed symbol of familial conflict and unresolved grief. Even after the house's demolition, whispers of Veronica's restless spirit persisted. Locals claim she still roams the area, a guardian of her legacy, ensuring that no new structure rises in place of the haunted Joller house. The land where it once stood remains untouched, a quiet reminder of the family's tragic history. In a curious twist of fate, the Fisher Gallery once featured one of the doors from the old haunted house for sale. A relic of the supernatural saga, it sparked mixed emotions among visitors. The thought of inviting Veronica Gutt's spirit into one's home is enough to send shivers down the spine. For some, it would be a morbid curiosity, a piece of history steeped in ghostly lore. For others, it serves as a potent reminder of the darkness that can reside within even the most beautiful places. Haunted hotels. Among the myriad of stories that swirl around Switzerland's haunted hotels, none is more captivating than that of the Hotel Val Sinestra, located near the quaint village of Scuol. Originally built in the late 19th century, this elegant establishment served as a spa and health resort, primarily aimed at treating conditions like tuberculosis. It drew guests from all over Europe, offering a blend of natural beauty and therapeutic services. Among the myriad of stories that swirl around Switzerland's haunted hotels, none is more captivating than that of the Hotel Val Sinestra, located near the quaint village of Scuol. Originally built in the late 19th century, this elegant establishment served as a spa and health resort, primarily aimed at treating conditions like tuberculosis. It drew guests from all over Europe, offering a blend of natural beauty and therapeutic services. However, beneath its picturesque facade lies a chilling legend that has lingered long after the last patient departed. The tale begins with Herman, a Belgian man who came to the Hotel Val Sinestra seeking treatment for his ailment. He was a young man with a gentle spirit, and during his stay he fell deeply in love with one of the hotel's staff members. Their romance blossomed amidst the backdrop of the Swiss Alps, yet their love was not meant to be. Tragically, Herman succumbed to his illness before he could fully express his feelings to her, leaving behind a heartbroken spirit. Years later, the hotel would become known not only for its stunning views and healing atmosphere, but also for its haunting presence. Staff members began to report strange occurrences that hinted at Herman's lingering spirit. Guests have described hearing disembodied whispers echoing through the corridors, while others spoke of feeling an inexplicable chill in certain rooms. Over time, the hotel employees came to recognize these occurrences as the playful antics of Herman, who seemed to have taken up residence among them. Herman's presence became a part of the hotel's daily life. Staff often recounted tales of seeing the lift operate independently, ascending and descending without any discernible reason. Windows would mysteriously open and close, much to the bewilderment of those nearby. Though unnerving at first, the employees learned to coexist with Herman's spirit, even attributing some of the hotel's quirks to his presence. In the 2010s, the story took a fascinating turn when a psychic medium named Andreas Mila visited the hotel. Intrigued by the accounts of the staff, he sought to communicate with Herman. During his visit, he sensed a profound sadness in the air and felt drawn to the spirit of the young Belgian. Through his mediumship, Mela established a connection with Herman, who recounted the details of his life and untimely death. Herman's spirit conveyed a message that reasoned deeply with Mila. He had not returned to haunt the hotel out of malice, but rather out of a desire to protect the very place that had once given him comfort. He had fallen in love with the staff member not only for her beauty, but for her kindness. Herman had witnessed how poorly some staff were treated by the hotel management, leading him to roam the halls as a guardian spirit, ensuring that the workers were respected and valued. As Mila relayed this message to the hotel staff, it transformed the way they viewed the apparition. Rather than fearing the mysterious presence, they embraced it as a protector. The staff began to leave small tokens of appreciation for Herman, such as flowers or handwritten notes acknowledging his role in their daily lives. It became a ritual to honor the spirit, and Herman's presence was now seen as a comforting reminder of love and kindness. Guests at Hotel Val Sinestra began to learn of Herman's story, adding an element of intrigue to their stay. Some would sit in the lounge, hoping to catch a glimpse of the friendly ghost. They would recount tales of encounters with the spirit, noting the warmth that filled the air whenever they felt his presence. Herman became a beloved part of the hotel's lore, and the staff cherished the connection they had fostered with him. Nestled in the breathtaking landscapes of Switzerland, the majestic Alps have long been a source of wonder and mystery. Yet beneath the beauty of snow-capped peaks and lush valleys lies a chilling legend that has haunted the region for centuries. This tale begins in the 1700s with a man named Hans Fuchs, a simple villager whose life would be forever altered by a fateful encounter. One crisp autumn day, as the sun filtered through the trees and painted the landscape in hues of gold and amber, Hans set out for a routine walk in the mountains. He was familiar with the terrain, having traversed the paths countless times, but that day felt different. There was an unsettling quietness in the air, as if nature itself was holding its breath. As Hans wandered deeper into the mountains, he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. A sense of foreboding enveloped him, and he paused to scan his surroundings. That's when he saw it, an unearthly creature slithering out from behind a rock. His heart raced as he tried to make sense of what lay before him. The beast was unlike anything Hans had ever seen. It was a stolen worm, or totzel worm, a reptilian creature with a long, scaly body and two short, muscular front legs. Its face resembled that of a cat, with sharp, piercing eyes that seemed to glow with a malevolent intelligence. The creature's scales shimmered in the dim light, and Hans noticed a strange, unsettling aura surrounding it. Some villagers whispered that the Alps monster possessed poisonous breath and blood, a trait that only heightened the fear it inspired. Frozen in terror, Hans could only watch as the tatzelworm slinked away into the underbrush. The encounter shattered his nerves, and as he turned to flee, his heart raced uncontrollably. He sprinted back home, desperation fueling his every step. He burst through the door, breathless and pale, recounting the harrowing tale to his family. But the weight of the experience proved too much for him to bear. Within moments of sharing his story, Hans collapsed, succumbing to a heart attack brought on by sheer fright. News of Hans Fuchs' demise spread like wildfire through the village, transforming his encounter into the stuff of legend. Villagers gathered to share their own eerie stories, recalling strange noises in the night and glimpses of shadowy figures lurking at the edge of the woods. They spoke in hushed tones about the totzel worm, a creature they believed to be a guardian of the mountains, or perhaps something far more sinister. Over the next 2 centuries, there were sporadic reports of sightings throughout the Alps. Though few had the courage to venture into the depths of the mountains, those who did returned with wild tales of encounters with the elusive creature. Hikers and mountaineers claimed to have seen strange tracks leading away from their camps, while farmers reported livestock mysteriously disappearing from their pastures. Whispers spread through remote villages that the Tatzelwurm was responsible for these attacks, leaving behind only scattered bones and traces of terror. The legend of the Alps monster grew, intertwining with the folklore of the region. Some believed it was a protector of the mountains, warding off intruders and guarding hidden treasures. Others viewed it as a harbinger of doom, a creature that thrived on fear and chaos. The Tatzelwurm became a symbol of the untamed wilderness, a reminder that even the most serene landscapes could hide terrifying secrets. In the quiet Swiss village of Mals, nestled amid the lush forests and serene landscapes, a peculiar legend began to unfold in the late 1990s. It started with eerie sightings of a tall, human-like figure that roamed the woods, shrouded in mystery and cloaked in fear. This enigmatic entity would become known as Le Loyon, or the Ghost of Mals, a figure that would haunt the imaginations of locals and curious travelers alike. Witnesses described Le Loyon as a towering presence, draped in a tattered boiler suit, with a long cloak that billowed in the wind. A gas mask obscured the figure's face, adding an unsettling quality to its already eerie appearance. It became a familiar sight in the area, often spotted wandering through the forest on Sundays, as if it were keeping a ritualistic schedule. Children playing nearby would shiver at the thought of encountering the ghostly figure, leading parents to warn them to stay close and avoid the woods during those hours. Despite the fright it instilled, Le Loyon was never reported to act violently or dangerously. Many locals recounted sightings of the figure picking flowers or simply wandering aimlessly among the trees. Its peaceful demeanor contrasted sharply with the tales of terror it inspired, creating an air of ambiguity around the creature. Was it a spirit, a wayward soul seeking companionship? Or was it merely a figment of the villagers' collective imagination? As rumors spread, theories about Le Loyon's identity began to surface. Some speculated that it was a ghost, perhaps a tormented spirit from the village's past, doomed to wander the forest forever. Others entertained the notion that it could be an extraterrestrial being, hiding from the world. A more grounded theory suggested that Le Loyon might be a mentally ill woman or an individual suffering from a skin condition, seeking solace in the woods far from prying eyes. Each theory seemed more outrageous than the last, further fueling the legend that had gripped the village. In 2013, the first photograph of Le Loyon surfaced, capturing the figure standing ominously among the trees. This image went viral, capturing the attention of media outlets around the world and propelling the urban legend of the Ghost of Mals into the public consciousness. People flocked to the village, hoping to catch a glimpse of the mysterious figure for themselves. The photograph stirred excitement and fear in equal measure, drawing thrill seekers and paranormal enthusiasts eager to unravel the mystery. However, as interest in Le Loyon grew, so did the anxiety of the villagers. Concerns about the safety of their children escalated, leading to more cautious behavior among the locals. Parents were troubled by the idea of their children encountering the figure and the fears that it instilled. The peaceful community found itself divided between those who were intrigued by the legend and those who wanted it to disappear. Later that same year, a shocking discovery was made by hikers exploring the Maules forest. They stumbled upon Le Loyon's mask and cloak, abandoned and lying on the forest floor. Accompanying these eerie artifacts was a letter titled "The Death Certificate and Testament of the Ghost of Mals." The letter, written in a frantic scrawl, expressed the writer's distress over the media frenzy that had erupted around the figure. It revealed that the attention had forced them to abandon their beloved Sunday walks, leading to their ultimate disappearance from the public eye. The letter hinted at the struggle of the individual behind the mask, a person who once sought solace in the woods, but now felt hunted and trapped by the very fame they never sought. It painted a picture of a lonely figure driven into hiding, illustrating the darker side of fame and the consequences of becoming a local legend. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share the video. See you next time.